the secret?
Father, Son, and House of Gucci.
N'ayez pas peur. Vivez chaque chose jusqu'au bout. Accomplissez-vous.
Murder, madness, glamour, and Gucci. The harrowing search for an illegal abortion in 1960s France, and Catherine Deneuve deals with life and death with characteristic grace. That's all coming up in this week's film show, and to take us through it, I'm joined by critic Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Olivia.
Now, first things first, we're starting with Ridley Scott's take on the dark dealings in the House of Gucci. Adam Driver, Lady Gaga, Jared Leto, and Jeremy Irons were on the red carpet in London for the premiere of the film. Let's take a look.
What's wonderful about House of Gucci, the film, is that Ridley Scott created something that is actually about a family, Italian family business, and what happens when a woman tries to infiltrate this business and the men shut her down.
I think this film is very entertaining, amazing filmmaking.
A film I think we should be very proud of. It's a Shakespearean story, it's a tragedy, it's an epic, and Ridley gives a film that size and that grandeur.
He's very much about energy, and he doesn't walk on set with his resume with him. He's so open and collaborative. He's the best to work with.
Really proud to be a part of it. It was a really compelling story. I think a lot of people will be shocked by what they learned about Gucci.
The cast of The House of Gucci there. Now, the story behind this film is based on a book inspired by true events, most of which are not for the faint-hearted. They're not subtle.
Hardly. And that's why it's so much fun to watch. That and the extraordinarily talented cast chewing the scenery with just the right drizzle of virgin olive oil. House of Gucci takes us from the chance meeting of Gucci heir Maurizio and middle-class secretary Patrizia through their romance and marriage. He's not terribly ambitious. She is. His father, Rodolfo Gucci, Jeremy Irons, owns half the family business, and Uncle Aldo Gucci, Al Pacino, who lives in New York, owns the other half. Now, Rodolfo has class, and Aldo projects crass. One is more profitable than the other. I'll let you guess which. It takes place over several decades when the currency was still the lira, and perhaps that's why it's so lyrical. While the settings range from Tuscany to Manhattan to St. Moritz, this film really should have been set in a Shark Tank. This is a tale of breeding versus instinct. And yes, Lady Gaga really can act up a storm in a non-singing role. The scenes between her and her personal fortune teller, played by Salma Hayek, are alone worth the price of admission.
Well, who else than Salma Hayek to play a personal fortune teller? Let's take a look at House of Gucci.
I see. An abuse of trust. An attempt to deceive you in your own house. You understand?
Yes, Pina.
Always have something red on you for protection and wear more green. Green is for cleansing.
Green doesn't go with my lipstick.
Change your lipstick. You're already so beautiful. Or wear green underwear. Maybe it's time for you to take back. Don't let these forces around you dictate who you are.
Important advice there. Now, Lisa, do we have to care about fashion to enjoy this film?
Caring about fashion is absolutely not a prerequisite. 40 years ago, Ridley Scott directed the sci-fi classic Blade Runner, where the futuristic cityscape, which was meant to be the year 2019, includes signs for several brands that seemed eternal at the time it was made. The now-defunct airline Pan Am, for example. Now, the production would have been on less shaky ground if they had put up neon signs for Gucci and billboards, and while we're at it, Chanel. Scott also directed the famous 1984 commercial that announced the Apple Macintosh computer to the world. I went into a computer supply store in Chicago in the 1980s and asked which aisle had the Mac-compatible floppy disks. True story. The clerk told me, Apple? I think they went out of business. I don't think we're in any danger of phasing out McDonald's or Disney, but the history of marketing warns us that anything can happen, and Gucci almost went bust.
An alternative reality indeed. Now, next to a French film, very different tone here. It won the top prize at the Venice Film Festival a few months ago. It's called L'événement, or Happening in English. It's on French screens this week. It's set in France in 1963, and it's based on the novelistic memoir by writer Annie Ernaux, Tell us more about that.
Well, Happening is the superbly told recreation of what Annie Ernaux, who is now 81, went through when, as a college student, she learned that she was pregnant. Abortion was so illegal that a woman seeking one could be thrown into prison, and so dangerous it could kill you. If you were a young woman with plans to study and forge a life for yourself beyond wife and motherhood, your life was over if you had to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term. And that's not hyperbole. Anne comes from a modest background, and having a child at this point would be catastrophic. Life really would grind to a halt, and the future would be sealed off. And that's why I think everybody, whether they're in favor of or opposed to safe legal abortion, should seek out this film, because it puts you in the shoes of a smart young woman faced with a terrifyingly stupid dilemma. There's no vocabulary with which to reveal the situation, this predicament, to her parents. And while the film does a very good job of showing in a matter-of-fact way that, yes, young women are interested in having sex, it also shows that the male component of the situation is useless. The gestation period of humans is known to one and all, so the passing weeks are a built-in ticking clock.
It's a very tense mood indeed, this film. Well, let's take a look at the harrowing mood of Happening, and we can hear from its director, Audrey Diwan.
Allez, raconte. T'aimais bien faire l'amour avec lui?
Ça ne te regarde pas.
Franchement, j'aurais jamais pensé que t'as eu des histoires comme ça.
Une histoire.
Oh, une histoire. Arrête.
She's a young woman up against the law, against the era she lives in. She's a young woman who needs to overcome her fears. Fear can take on many forms. It's a fear of ending up in prison, staying there forever.
So much has been made of the fact that this award-winning film was directed by a woman. Is that an important aspect of the film's effectiveness?
Well, director Audrey Diwan, this is her second feature, has revealed that she herself terminated a pregnancy. But in the 21st century, nobody's about to throw her into prison for having done so. I would like to pause and salute the skilled filmmakers who happen to be men, who have made some of the very best films about the stakes in trying to secure an illegal abortion. Claude Chabrol's 1988 Une affaire de femme, Story of Women, starred Isabelle Huppert as Marie-Louise Giraud, who was guillotined in 1943 for having performed 27 abortions. Yes, guillotined. This was Vichy France, and abortion was considered treason because it was immoral and also because it led to population decline. Cutting people's heads off leads to population decline, too. Huppert won Best Actress at the Venice Film Festival. Mike Leigh's Vera Drake is about a kind and thoughtful working-class, middle-aged housewife in 1950s London who runs an abortion service for women in need, the way other women bake cookies. Like the film we're heralding today, it won the Golden Lion in Venice in 2004. And Christian Mungiu's instant classic, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, that portrayed the unrelenting danger of securing an abortion in Romania, won the top prize, the Palme d'Or, in Cannes in 2007. Lead actress Anna Maria Bartolomé in Happening is outstanding. She projects a mix of vulnerability and strength that's riveting, and the camera is glued to her every move, and so are we.
And that is really a standout performance from her indeed. Now, moving to French director Emmanuelle Berco, she's made her third feature with Catherine Deneuve. It's called 200 Vivants, or Peaceful in English. Deneuve plays Christelle, the mother of Benjamin, whose days are numbered. Something frightening actually happened on set that has nothing to do with the story.
Well, in late 2019, Deneuve suffered a stroke while shooting the movie, for real. Most of the film is set in a hospital clinic, and the filming was taking place in the wing of a medical facility, and that almost certainly helped in getting Deneuve immediate assistance. She spent quite a few weeks in the hospital and did a lot of physical therapy, but she has completely recovered. Once Deneuve was well, shooting was completed. Peaceful, of course, also stars Benoit Magimel. He gives an exceptionally fine performance as a doomed man whose doctor urges him to iron out his regrets. As the director herself says, there's no suspense about whether Benjamin is going to die of cancer. It's just a question of when. So the film is divided into 4 seasons, which gives Benjamin a framework in which to reflect on his choices as a drama instructor and as an absentee father, father, and even to accommodate the stirrings of a final romance with a nurse on staff. As for his mom, it's not in the natural order of things for a parent to outlive her child. In another touching incursion of real life, on July 11th, within hours of the triumphant gala screening at Cannes, Deneuve's mother, Renée d'Orléac, died at age 109. She had been the oldest living actor on the planet, born in 1911. She made her stage debut at age 7 and decades later went on to a career dubbing major English language actresses from Olivia de Havilland to Judy Garland into French.
An impressive life and career there. Now, this film, obviously, as you mentioned, has these well-known names, Benoît Magimel and Catherine Deneuve, well-known actors. But there's a non-professional actor playing a version of himself who, for many people, steals the show. His name's Dr. Gabriel Serra. Tell us about him.
Well, Dr. Serra is an oncologist who believes in the power of music and song in the treatment of cancer. He believes that music can help treat pain. He trained in Beirut and in Paris and practices at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and it is a privilege to watch him interact with patients in this film, even if the patients aren't really ill.
A bittersweet incursion of real life in a film there. Thank you very much for that roundup. Lisa will leave you with a look at Catherine Deneuve and Benoît Magimel in Peaceful. Remember, you can get more movie news on our website. We're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Imaginez que vous parlez à un de vos amis qui vous demande des nouvelles de votre santé.
Est-ce que je peux enregistrer?
Bien sûr.
C'est bon, ça tourne?
Oui.
Allez, donc, ce que j'ai une merde au pancréas. Et au début, j'avais mal au dos. On a cherché longtemps ce que j'avais. Au bout de plusieurs mois, on ne trouvait pas ce qui clochait. Ils ont fini par faire une radio, et c'est ça?
Une biopsie.
Et une biopsie. Mais c'était pas le dos, en fait. Et après, un chirurgien a dit que c'était pas opérable. Et voilà.
Est-ce que vous suivez un traitement en ce moment?
Je prends juste des antidouleurs. La seule chose qu'on m'a proposée, c'est la chimio, mais ça, je veux pas. Bon, on dit que vous êtes un as, c'est pour ça qu'on est là. Alors, est-ce que vous allez m'aider, docteur Ailey?